Hi everybody, welcome back to Thrills and Stitches. My name is Elisa. If you don't know me, today we're going to talk about how to choose the right fabric for your sewing project, which is such an important thing to understand. Choosing the right fabric really makes or breaks your project, and I do know from experience that particularly beginner sewists struggle with that process quite a bit. I have a vivid memory of myself walking around the London fabric stores having absolutely no idea what I was doing, so I figured it would be a good idea to create a video explaining to you how best to approach this process and how to end up with sewing projects and garments that you really love because you chose the right fabric. So let's get into it. Alright, so I think the first thing we need to do is to talk about the two overarching categories of fabrics that exist. On the one hand, we have woven fabrics. When we talk about woven fabrics, we think about things like denim, linen, or cotton. These fabrics tend to be made from natural fibers, and they tend to be quite rigid and structured in their appearance and feel. On the other side, we do have knit fabrics. If we think about knit fabrics, we can think of anything such as jersey, terry, or a rib knit. These fabrics tend to be more flexible, drapey, and elastic. Now, just because something is woven doesn't mean it's rigid, and just because something is knitted doesn't mean it's flexible. Why am I saying that? Because fabrics can be made up out of different components. Let's, for example, say we have a woven denim. However, if we introduce a polyester to that denim, we can end up with something called stretch denim. The same is true for linen. Stretch linen exists and stretch cotton exists as well. Even though these more fluid types of fabrics exist, woven fabrics usually still tend to make a great base for anything that is structured or quite fitted. Knit fabrics are really always a great choice if you go for something a little bit more relaxed or comfortable. Okay, now let's talk about matching your fabric to your project or matching your project to your fabric. Here are some basic rules to follow. I try to be quite generic with that by subcategorizing it in 4 fractions. First, we have dresses or blouses. Dresses and blouses tend to be a little bit more lightweight unless your design requires something different. So if we think about dresses and blouses, we can think of light to medium weight fabrics. Anything such as satin, cotton, rayon, chiffon would all work great. Secondly, we have pants and jackets. These usually require slightly more weighty fabrics, something a little bit more stiff and structured. So twill, denim, or wool for structure would be great. Thirdly, we have activewear and loungewear. Anything stretchy like jersey or spandex would work great, but also things like terry. Lastly, we have more formal wear. So say, for example, occasion wear dresses or something a little bit more smart casual. For those, I usually go for silk, satin, or a poly mix fabric that behaves a little bit more, fluidly in a more luxe way. Now let's talk about how to understand fabric when you're actually in the store. And I think the most important thing, the most important tool for you when you're in the fabric store are your hands. It's very important to touch and feel the fabric in front of you to understand whether it's the right one for the project that you're working on. Right, the first thing that you want to do is to do a drape test. That means you just grab a section of the fabric, roll it off the roll, and you grab it and just pinch it like this and let it fall down. How does it behave? Is it very fluid? Is it very drapey? Does it hold its own shape well? Those are all indicators to make you understand whether it's the right fabric for your project. Say, for example, if I wanted to make a button-up shirt, this cotton right here would be a good choice. Why? Because it is rigid, it is woven, and it holds its own shape quite well, which for button-up shirts can be important, particularly, for example, for the collar or the cuffs. You want it to be crisp, you want it to look nice. The rule of thumb here is that stiffer fabrics work better for structured looks, and more flowy, drapey fabrics work better for fluid looks. Beyond the drape of the fabric, you also want to understand 3 other things about it: the stretch, the weight, and the fiber content. Let's start with the stretch test. You simply grab your fabric and pull it. Does it stretch? No? Then it's good for structured looks. If it does stretch, it's good for fluid looks. Generally, if it's bouncy, it's great for fitted garments. Secondly, you want to check the weight test. Not all the cottons are the same. There's some more heavyweight cottons, which will give your button-up shirt a quite structured, maybe a little bit more serious look. But if it's a little bit more lightweight, then it will give you a more lived-in feel. Thirdly, we want to talk about the fiber content. Natural fibers like cotton, linen, or hemp do tend to breathe quite well. So in the summertime, if you wear something like this as a shirt, then you will have a great time. On the other hand, synthetic fabrics like this satin here, for example, tend to trap heat. So if you wear something like this in the summertime, you're probably gonna have a hard time and you will sweat a lot. Okay, so here are a few tips specifically for beginners if you have no idea where to start. I would start with simple, maybe slightly more rigid fabrics. Why is that? They tend to behave like paper, which means that it's very easy to handle them. Anything like a cotton or a knit that is a little bit more stable would work for that. As a beginner, beginner, I would generally try to avoid silks or satins because those are quite slippery. They don't have any give at all, and it's quite hard to match up things with each other. So unless you are really a confident beginner, maybe steer clear of those. When you buy a sewing pattern online, I would always recommend checking the fabric suggestions because the pattern designer will probably give you some pointers as to what fabric's best to use. And lastly, huge one for beginners, always buy a little extra fabric because you never know which problems you might be running into. All right, now let's get to the fun part. I have a little challenge planned for myself. I have loads of fabrics in store, naturally, as a sewing YouTuber and sewing pattern designer, and I have a few that I actually don't really have a plan for. So we're now gonna sit down at my workstation. I'm gonna pull up Pinterest and I'm gonna have 3 different types of fabrics that I'm going to show you the process of choosing the right project for, basically. So I'm gonna pull 3 fabrics and we're gonna discuss what I could make with each of those. So let's do it. Let's start off with the simple one, which is this linen right here. This is a very rigid, very mid-weight category fabric. It's probably skewing into the interior fabrics category, and it has absolutely no give whatsoever. This falls into the woven fabrics category. Now, what could we make with this? There is a bunch of things we could make. I am already seeing this right here, the dress particularly. This is probably a sort of canvas or more heavyweight cotton, I would assume. And I think I could make this exact outline, this exact design with this fabric. I think it would actually look really cute as well. Maybe I'm gonna do that. Apart from that, and the reason why I had initially bought this fabric, I had my eyes on a really cute vest design that I thought this would be cute for, particularly this one. I really like the simple vest design and I thought that this fabric could be really cute for it. That's another option. So 2 potential projects for this type of more mid-weight, quite rigid linen fabric. Let's move on to the next. All right, the next fabric, which is a slightly more tricky one, is this one. This, to me, is a woven fabric. However, it does have a bit of give, so it's a little bit flexible, which means we could make something slightly fitted with this. Now, the first thing, and the reason why I bought this actually, that I figured I was going to make with this is my Ocean dress, because the Ocean dress, I initially made it with denim, and I think it could look really, really cute with this type of fabric as well to make a little bit more a little bit more comfy, more relaxed version of the dress. This with like really cute gold buttons, I think would look amazing. However, let's see if there's something else that we could make with this type of material. I've pinned a lot of like summer cotton linen summer looks here recently, so I probably have to go a little bit further back in my pinning history. Ooh, before I move on, this one would be perfect for the linen that I just showed you. The print even speaks the same language. How cute would that be? But I digress. It's often very hard to actually name fabrics because, like I said, the lines between woven or knitted can be quite blurred depending on the fiber that is used. So it's not always super straightforward. Something like this would be super easy. I even have a sewing pattern for this, which is called the Sally dress. You would just have to extend the skirt a little bit, but this would definitely work for this type of dress. Okay, I think we have a few projects that we can use this fabric for. And now, last but not least, the toughest of them all, chiffon. Why is chiffon so hard? It's elusive. It is slippery. It tends to warp quite a bit. It is see-through. This is the bane of my existence, yet I always reach for it. So what could we make with this fabric? I have bought this because I want to make a super simple full circle skirt with it because I simply liked the design on the fabric. And I do remember, I think it was a Gucci skirt, Gucci or Prada, I don't exactly know. Ariana Grande actually also wore it for the Wicked press tour or some sort of editorial spread in a magazine, and that this reminded me of, so I wanted to make a skirt with this. So simple is the way to go with this. However, if you wanted to go full on, simply Google or Pinterest search chiffon dress and you will see loads of different potential designs for it. This would look beautiful in this fabric with the little ruffles going on. Chef's kiss. However, we would definitely have to line this because it's see-through, and that's where the problems begin. The devil is in the details. Then the question arises, what type of fabric do you use to line this? I would probably go with a slightly more dense power mesh because the nature of the power mesh tends to merge quite well with the elusive nature of the chiffon. But if you wanted something slightly more structured, or you wanted to make sure that the undergarment holds the shape so that the ruffles don't go everywhere, you would probably go with something like viscose lining, something breathable, because you tend to wear these types of fabric in summer and you need to make sure you don't die while doing so or melt away. Or, I mean, absolutely Mango's Chloe ripoffs right here, or if you want to take Chloe as an inspiration, would work beautifully for these more loose designs, and would maybe also be a little bit easier because accuracy is not the first goal with these types of designs. It's more about the fluidity of it all. And that's it. So we have a potential project for all three of those fabrics. Okay, let's put together a cheat sheet. We have two different types of fabrics, woven and knitted. Woven ones tend to be more rigid, knitted ones tend to be more flexible. When you go to the fabric store, always touch the fabric. Do a drape test. Do a stretch test. If you have fabric at home that you don't know what to do with, Google and Pinterest are your best friends. If you have an idea of what the name of the fabric is, just look up chiffon dress or cotton dress or knit dress and get yourself inspired. That's always a good way to start. If you have a sewing pattern that you want to make and you don't know what fabric to go for, always check the maker's suggestions as to what type of fabric to go for. And last but not least, challenge yourself, try new things, be okay with failing, and always buy a little bit more fabric than you thought you needed. And that is it for me today. I'm out. See you next time. Bye bye.